Welcome to Notepad. I'm your host Ibrahim Sani. Selamat Hari Raya. We have with us Ashran Ghazi, the CEO of Dattel Asia. How are you, Ashran?
Hai, Alhamdulillah. Kau hidup Ibrahim? Selamat Hari Raya.
Selamat Raya. You know, this time last year, I thought we would be all over and done with the whole pandemic, but apparently, you know one thing. I'm not too sure this time next year. We're gonna be out in the
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, but how are things? How have you been this year? I mean, I wish I have seen you the whole year, but we haven't actually met, right?
No. The best we did was Skype, right?
The best we did was Skype, because the last time you were there at Astro, you were still with the government agency, and therefore
Yes.
many years ago. Tell me about your business. This year, has it been a good year for you guys?
Well, just like any other business, initially last year was a bit slow, but things were picking up end of quarter 4 last year, and a little bit more better naturally quarter 1. And then as much as the market is being cautious, but from our line of business, it is quite encouraging to see that while people are cautious, they are actually trying their very best to be a bit more data-oriented in their decision making. Because everyone is feeling a little bit clueless, and having some baseline to make that decision would give that confidence for them to move ahead, essentially.
No, you hit it right on the nail, actually, because throughout the year I've been interviewing businesses, and they say that they know that it's important to have data, it's important to have some form of intelligence, but at the same time, they're not trained in the art of trying to understand data. You know, they are accountants, engineers, they're lawyers, they do whatever they do best. You know, they're in construction. So it's very hard for them to actually analyze an item that comes across as intelligence, because it can be overwhelming. In fact, there's a term here, data paralysis is a real thing.
Yes. Oh,
So yeah,
and we meet a lot of people that sometimes ends up on that paralysis that you're talking about.
yeah. So with that in mind, Dattel has introduced a particular item here. I want to talk to you more about that. It means Raya mode. Everybody's shopping. And by the way, before we jump into this, did you see the photos coming in from Jalan Masjid India and Jalan Tukar Rahman? I really wish them all the best, but this is not the time, I suppose, to rub shoulders and mask at Masjid India.
Exactly.
It is a season for giving, a season for shopping, and consumers are at the front and center of this. Dattel has introduced the 25 behavioral archetypes. Is that how you say it?
Archetypes.
So let's talk through it first. Why did you guys create this? What was the main purpose of helping businesses trying to understand this before we jump into the whole 25 ideas that we have inside?
No. So the purpose is quite simple, right? When we talk to especially people in the 100% digital footprint, and people talk about behavior, it's just behavior of what they browse online and what they do online, right? And we felt that there was a need to capture a person more holistically, and that's been our premise as a business. But back to what we kind of spoke earlier on, businesses out there have that desire, have that wish, but if it is too raw, it's also very difficult for them to analyze. It's also very difficult for them to kind of process to make that decision. So what we did was we actually kind of looked back at all the data that we've captured. The team kind of sat down together and ran some models to be able to look at patterns of behavior based on consumption, right? Whether it's consumption online or online, that's irrelevant. But it's consumption patterns of an individual. And in order to make it easier, we've kind of grouped these behaviors together, so that for a business owner or for a digital marketer, they are able to look at those things and then kind of take on their business decision from there, right? Whatever we've put, it's not going to be enough for them to say, see this and make a decision, but it will take them into a step where they say, oh, okay, if this is the case, now I need to start thinking about this. Now I need to kind of do this and that. Or Now I need more of this. So that was the real intent with regards to this, and because we felt, everyone is just scrambling in the dark. And I think that when you got me on air the last time, also, I did mention that we want to try to make data as accessible as possible.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
and everybody in the organization understands it. There's no miscommunication or
yes,
interpretation of what things can be. Where when you
correct,
look at a particular same item,
right, right,
a lot of retail companies are familiar with segmenting their consumers and segmenting their customers. Perhaps the ability for them to segment may be on the location of the customers, using demography types, try to understand better in terms of their behavior,
right.
psychographic types. How is this 25 behavioral archetypes that Dattel has come up with is similar or a bit different from what we are traditionally familiar with?
Right. So you hit spot on in terms of how things are done traditionally, right? And when things are done in that manner, it is always only from the aspect of your interaction with the consumer itself. It is not painting the totality of the picture. So what we did here is because our approach in capturing data of the behavior covers all aspects of your life. And I mentioned the last time, we take 10 aspects of a person's life. So it's not just about, a particular niche area, but it is about the 10 aspects of your life. That means what you wear, what you eat, how frequent you do things, how frequent do you go to a gym. So all these things actually personifies a person, and your behavior as a set, right? Not just from a singular niche lens, essentially.
All right. We'll definitely jump into this, but we'll go for one short break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Ashran Ghazi. Thanks for staying on with us. I have with me Ashran Ghazi of Dattel Asia. Let's look at the underlying philosophy behind you creating this archetypes. We touched a little bit more about how data is being used to create this kind of behavioral, I guess, archetypes of consumers. But I want to ask you before we jump into the whole mechanism into it, are these behavioral archetypes similar across industries, or would it be slightly different? Say, for instance, consumers in, I don't know, entertainment, a little bit different in
No.
telco.
So that's an awesome point, Ibrahim, because a lot of people, analyze consumers from an industry perspective, and that is where we are different. In the age of, we talk about disruptions happening, right?
Mm.
We feel that you cannot analyze consumers from an industry lens, because industry definitions will actually may even differ, or you get gray boundaries, right? You've got to go and look at the root of the behavior itself. And essentially what I'm saying here is that what we have, it is actually industry agnostic. Regardless of what industry that is serving the consumer, you can use this behavior archetypes essentially. And it's all a matter of how you want to apply it. And find that strategic angle for that application essentially.
There's this analogy that you use in your deck, that very famous analogy of an elephant being examined by six,
Yes,
seven different people across 6, 7 different places of the elephant, and each would have an argument saying that whatever they see is not an elephant, it's a
exactly.
particular item. And that's that however famous this particular analogy is, people are still doing it. Businesses are still running into this foul
No,
analogy.
exactly, bro, exactly.
So how do we move from it, right? I mean, it's 2021. I'm sure we can better understand our business now, but still we run into these problems. How do you think understanding the behavioral archetypes can actually move ahead in trying to understand the business better?
And the only reason we had that visual on the deck that I shared with you, right, is to highlight to folks and telling them, say, look, I can paint you the whole elephant. I can give you a view of the whole elephant, but then you decide which angle you want to take. Because last time you could not get access to the whole elephant, right? Or to get to see the whole elephant is too expensive, bro. So you say, never mind lah. As long as I see one part of it and I can tell my boss this story, I'm okay. Because my boss also see only that part of the elephant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that's
the unfortunate reality.
Yeah, but that's the point of people coming up with the traditional approach of coming up with the segmented business, sorry, customer segment. It's reactive, it's problem focused. In fact, one would argue it's the products that they already have and try to force fit into the customers that they think is out there wanting the product. Now, in essence, that might not be wrong. I mean, if I have sirap bandung, I probably want to look for customers that want sirap bandung.
Yes.
But the question now is whether or not it is even right for me to create sirap bandung in the first place, and that's why we need to have intelligence driving customer and consumer.
I can give you an example since you brought up about sirap bandung, right? So we've got an entrepreneur who has pre-mixed coffee but has added habatus sauda in it, the black seed.
Yes. Why? Right? Because that's what is required by the market? Is that what they look for?
Well, they started off because they wanted a unique proposition lah.
Okay.
Right? Okay. But when we were, showing the data sets that we have and some of the behavior archetypes that we have, right? Because the entrepreneur is saying, Ashran, this black seed, right, is actually good for health. Now, when you want to angle this product to the market, as you rightly pointed out about bandung just now, you can take different angles. Yes, you say it's for health, but who do you actually want to target? Do you want to target that people have been consuming healthy food products? They may not have consumed yours, but they are consuming other healthy food products. Or do you want to target those who have actually have a good fitness regime and kind of say this can complement them? And the way you position the product, the way you sell the product, the way you communicate the product is entirely different. It's not right or wrong. It's a business call that you need to make, right? And to her, it was like, when she saw that, I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way. I just went out there to say, hey guys, this is healthy, go lah, buy my product.
Yeah. So you move your business with a lot more purposeful,
correct,
kind of deliberate action.
Correct.
Okay, let's talk.
It should not be just about, everyone talks about the buzz of data, right? It cannot just be for the sake of you want to follow the buzz lah.
No, but that's the point. The businesses are like that. Everybody has this, so they must have it too. Everybody has customer data. I don't know what it is. Then the businesses comes up with their own, and then at the end of the day, it's serving nobody. It's not serving their customers. It's not serving their competitors, and certainly not serving themselves. Which brings us to the crux of this interview. How do you come up with those archetypes? I have here, you were talking about continuous behavior, attitude study, customer journey. Talk to us through that.
As I mentioned just now, right, we've got a group of people that has been curated that becomes our source of data, essentially. They have been given special access to download our app so that we can track their behavior both online and offline. And this is what we're using to be able to get a view of a person from a more holistic perspective. And what the team has done in order to come up with these behavior archetypes is to look at patterns and kind of groups them together. And one of the interesting things that has come out is then when they look at the more dominant ones across, the clustering of what has been done based on the algorithm is actually a lot more than 25. But the 25 is the most significant ones, because those insignificant ones, you say, you know what, it will not make much of a business sense to actually even look at applying that. These 25 have better sense for them to apply it. And once it's grouped together, we tag labels to it so that it's easier also for the business owners and marketers to look at its application of things. And it becomes an easy starting entry point for business owners and marketeers to be able to look at different angles of the customers and how their consumption patterns are.
Okay, so we have these 25 behavioral archetypes. We know the kind of motivations that each and every single one wants, and perhaps not one. Say, for instance, I see here a KTV clubber. Uh,
Yes,
so
yes,
maybe this individual might not want food, for instance. They prefer something else. So we
right.
know what they want, what they don't want. My next question to you is going to be a bit tricky. How do you operationalize this? Is it possible for a company, let's say they go after this 25 behavioral archetypes from Dattel, can they automate it? Can they say, for this particular products, I'm going to market it for this one at this time, and then maybe roll out a seasonal thing, Raya, for instance, we roll
Yes,
out more
yes.
of that. How do you operationalize with what we have versus what we know?
Well, the thing is this, right? Let's take from a more mass appeal right now. Everyone's going digital. Everyone's going to Facebook to do marketing, for instance, right? Um, the insights of these behavioral archetypes and some of the things that complements these archetypes that we have will allow business owners out there to do their ad targeting a lot better. Because right now, and we've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs, including digital marketeers, right? Everyone is just guessing based on what they observe in the market. When they need, maybe the demographic side is okay lah, you kind of have a certain sizing with regards to that. But when Facebook asks you to choose the interest, right? Most people are choosing interest because on things that relate to their product. Now, not that they won't get the audience, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Just to be clear, it's just not optimized. Especially when you're putting your dollar there, you want your dollar to be optimized. And what we are actually going to be helping businesses to make that process a lot easier, right? Is that inshallah, in June, we're going to be launching an extended tool that allows you to look at the data, look at the behavior archetypes, choose the right segments, save it, and then if you're trying to run a campaign on FB, you just need to then push it to your FB account, and then we will use our algorithm to pair with Facebook's algorithm so that you're getting that totality of a picture of a person as opposed to just second guessing who you should be targeting.
Yeah, so that's a good lead in into my next question, because
Okay.
digital marketers have been relying on Facebook and Google for the longest of time.
Yeah.
A lot of estimates are saying for every ad dollar spent online, 90 cents goes to these two companies. And internally, when we talk about Astro, for instance, our competitor isn't Netflix, isn't HBO or anything. Actually, to be frank, I mean, even though it makes sense for us to cluster ourselves against them, it is actually Facebook and Google.
Right.
The problem here is that digital marketers are finding less and less value from them based on the fact that they need to spend a lot more to target the same amount of customers today compared to the little amount of money that they did have to spend, say, 2 years ago. Customers are getting complex. They're getting a bit difficult to track, rightfully so, because of privacy data. The latest iOS, for instance, I've been using it. It's quite fun. I wasn't even aware that apps were tracking. Like, I understand Facebook won't track me, but Food Panda is tracking me as well, and I don't understand why, right?
Oh, every single app out there is actually, mining whatever the things that they can mine.
So this is the tug of war, lah. I mean, the businesses want to track you. You yourself don't want to be tracked, but at the same time, as an individual, I want to be served the kind of products I want that fits me. So it's an ongoing battle. That is the battle of the 21st century.
Right.
How do you see digital marketers finding more value from your services right now, these 25 behavioral archetypes and all the other stuff that Dattel is offering? How is it different, or how is it bringing different kind of value compared to, say, Facebook and Google right now?
Well, the thing is, we are not an ad platform, right? So Facebook and Google are ad platforms, and they've got audiences. We are just the tool that's going to give better clarity for digital marketeers on what, they can have got their tactical strategy. But what we and help power up digital marketers out there is to be able to segment whatever strategies that they want to apply and have that clarity and confidence to be able to do that essentially. And we've seen quite a number of digital agencies that is saying, hey, you know what? We didn't deal with this before just because, we didn't have the tools. And one pertinent digital marketer that I met said that, Ashran, you know what's interesting? The whole value chain of digital marketing, right? Almost everything is automated or digitalized, so to speak. But the part where before you start putting ads and so forth or running a campaign, it's not digitalized per se. And what you guys have on the table is actually filling that void to help bridge that gap and then continue that journey essentially. And we tell folks, and a lot of people are seeing the value that, hey, you know what? I now start here first before I go into, say, Facebook or Google, or before I make that decision whether it should be Facebook or Google or not. So that's how the market landscape is at the moment.
So it's very complementary in that sense.
It is.
Okay. Now, we know that 2021 is a rough year. In fact, one would argue rougher than 2020. Government has no more money. They can't give out as much assistance as they could this year compared to last year.
Correct.
But at the same time, businesses are also looking to recover. I would argue, and very, very vehemently, that businesses are in the recovery phase right now. Might not be in the growth stage. So it's about time that they start thinking about how they plan to enter 2021. You know, before you know it, Ashran, we're already in May.
Yes, bro, it's May, you know.
It's before you know, it's already December, and then January again. Do you think that this kind of services would better suit what kind of companies, what kind of sectors, what kind of size of those companies? Who would benefit the most using these kind of services?
A good question also. Well, number one, at least from the context where we're at, Ibrahim, we support primarily businesses that are B2C. That means that are serving consumers directly by virtue of our framing of consumer intelligence, right? And it's irrespective of what verticals that they're in. Even if we've met people that we do not have their literal data sets, but it's in. That is only if you're trying to understand the industry. But if you're trying to understand the person, right? You want to sell a book also, you want to understand, Ibrahim, yes, you kind of like this kind of books, but what are you like as a whole?
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes, I may have not piqued your interest on, say, sports books, but you are activated in sports. And maybe that's an angle for me to sell books to you that are sports related.
Yeah.
So back to your question just now, number one, it's about B2C businesses. If you're B2C, we can definitely help you out there. Number two was your question with regards to size. And I think in our last call, I mentioned that we have designed the product suite in such a way that the level of data that you will get will be the same, regardless of whether you're small or large. But the key thing that we have done is that we understand that for a smaller business, your level of analysis is not that much. You only want to know certain things at that stage of your business life.
Yes.
Right? So at the lower end of the spectrum, all your concern is usually, tell me, Dattel, who should I target? Where should I target? That's all your worry.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, you don't have to overcomplicate things.
Don't have to overcomplicate. So we right-size that data solution for SMEs. For larger businesses, right, they've got other considerations that they need to think of. They need to look into all different angles. We deal with that kind of segment in a different manner. But the data sets that we have, the holistic aspect of understanding consumers is accessible whether you're small or big.
Ashran, one more question before we end this interview, and then you can go makan your ketupat. A lot of businesses want to internationalize their market. Do you think that we can have something like this for Indonesia, for Thailand, for Vietnam? I don't know. I mean, businesses.
We do have presence in Indonesia and Thailand at the moment, and we do have similar data sets and behavior archetypes too of those countries. And we are telling entrepreneurs that if you're trying to go into Thailand, don't assume that the consumer segments there are the same as yours. Don't assume that if in Malaysia you're targeting, a particular segmentation, that is going to be the same thing that you want to replicate in Thailand or Indonesia. Look at the data, shift your narrative accordingly when you approach those markets itself. With regards to other places in ASEAN, we did have aspirations. It got slowed down, hampered down a little bit by virtue of COVID.
Yeah.
But we do look forward in progressing into Vietnam and Philippines in particular, actually.
So this is the mood actually. This is something that I've been listening to most of my guests as well. They want to grow, but right now they're taking a step back for the time being. Wait until the pandemic blows over, everybody's vaccinated, and then grow. So it kind of makes sense for these businesses to grow as Dattel grows as well, because then you get more and more together, and perhaps you can improve on the ecosystem.
It is going to be a symbiotic relationship.
Definitely.
Right? It is going to be
and just to highlight, this is not static, right? Because you were talking about how this is ongoing. So the
yes, it's not static. It's not static.
Yeah, it's not a picture, so to speak. It's more of a movie that you.
Yes.
All right. Thanks very much, Ashran. I really appreciate you taking your time off with your family, celebrating Raya with us.
No worries. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Ray.
You know, I honestly hope to get you in the studio. I really did. But you know, with this fourth wave coming, I mean, or third wave, I don't know. I lost.
Dah 3 kali ni.
3 kali, babe. Kalau aku kahwin ni, aku boleh jadi kahwin 4, babe. Thank you very much. All right, that was our conversation with Ashran Ghazi, the CEO of Dattel Asia. If you've missed any part of this interview, just head on to astroawani.com. Look for Notepad over there. You can also search for Dattel, that's Dattel, on our website or on our application on your mobile devices. Till then, thanks very much for watching and Selamat Hari Raya to everyone.